Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into the wilderness this time with the Israelites, fresh out of Egypt.
Freedom!
Yeah, free at last, but not exactly a walk in the park.
Definitely not. It's more like a walk in the desert, full of tests for the Israelites as individuals and a community.
Right, and we're going to see how they deal with some of those challenges.
Yeah.
Like that time when they ran out of water, can you imagine? Out in the desert, the sun beating down, no water.
And after just escaping slavery, they'd already been through so much.
You must have been on edge.
Totally. And when you're thirsty and scared, sometimes you lash out, even at people trying to help you.
Well, they definitely lashed out at Moses, questioned his leadership, wondered if he'd led them out of Egypt just to die of thirst in the wilderness.
Understandable, right? When we're feeling threatened, we look for someone to blame.
It's human nature.
Totally.
Yeah.
But Moses, he doesn't get defensive. He turns to God for help.
And God comes through big time.
Oh, yeah. He tells Moses to strike a rock, and boom, water comes gushing out. Talk about divine intervention.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? Like, even when things seem impossible, there's this source of provision. We just have to tap into it.
Absolutely. It's about trusting that even in the midst of hardship, even when we feel lost and thirsty, there's a way forward. There's something bigger than ourselves that can help us through.
Sometimes you just need a little reminder that you're not alone. And sometimes that reminder comes in the form of a miracle or a gushing rock.
Exactly. But just when the Israelites think they can finally catch their breath, they face another challenge. This time it's not a lack of water, but a surprise attack by the Amalekites.
Okay, so who are these guys?
Well, they were a nomadic tribe known for their fierce guerrilla-style warfare. They were like a constant threat to anyone traveling through the region.
So what did the Israelites do? Do they just pray for another miracle?
Well, there's definitely a divine element, but this time it plays out a little differently. Moses goes up on a hilltop, not with a sword, but with God's staff. And here's the thing. When he holds his hands up, the Israelites are winning. But when he lowers his hands, they start to lose.
Wait, so he's just standing there on a hilltop holding his arms up. That's the battle strategy.
It's a powerful image, right? It's about faith, yes, but it's also about action and about the connection between the two.
So it's not enough to just pray for a good outcome. You have to be willing to put in the effort too.
Exactly. But even Moses gets tired. Holding your arms up that long, it's got to be exhausting.
That's where Aaron and Hur come in.
Yes. They see that Moses is struggling, and they literally hold up his arms for him so he can keep that staff raised and ensure victory for the Israelites.
Teamwork.
Seriously. It's a beautiful example of how we can support each other, how we don't have to face our challenges alone.
So we've got this theme of trusting in provision even when things seem impossible, and this idea of finding strength in community. But there's another element here too.
Right. Absolutely. And that's this idea of pairing faith with action. And we see that even more clearly when we look at Joshua's role in this story.
Oh, right, Joshua. He's down there leading the actual fighting while Moses is up on the hilltop.
Right. It's not just faith or just action, but this powerful combination of both that ultimately leads to victory.
It's like you need both, right?
Yeah.
You need the faith to believe in something bigger than yourself, and you need the action to actually make things happen.
Yes. It's about trusting that you have the resources, both internal and external, to handle whatever comes your way. And sometimes those resources come in the form of a friend or a colleague or even a stranger who steps in to offer support just when you need it most.
So it's about recognizing those moments and being open to receiving help and also being willing to offer help to others when they're struggling.
It's a beautiful cycle, isn't it? Giving and receiving support, helping each other through the tough times, and trusting that even in the wilderness, even when things feel uncertain, there's a way forward. There's always hope. And there's always something bigger than ourselves that can guide us through.
It's like those stories from the desert. They still resonate today, don't they?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, our deserts might look different. You know, it could be a job loss or a health scare or just feeling lost and unsure about what's next.
But the challenges are real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those stories, they offer us wisdom about how to navigate those rough patches.
Speaking of challenges, what about those Amalekites? They kind of disappear from the story. What happened to them?
Well, that's where things get a little complicated. The text says God commanded the Israelites to completely wipe out the Amalekites, to erase their memory from the earth.
That's a tough one, especially when you look at it through a modern lens.
Right. It raises all sorts of questions about justice and forgiveness and reconciliation.
It makes you think. So as we're talking about all this, what's resonating with you the most?
For me, it's that image of Aaron and Hur holding up Moses' arms is such a small act of kindness, but it speaks volumes about the power of support.
It's a reminder that even the strongest among us need help sometimes.
Exactly. We don't have to do everything alone. And sometimes the most powerful form of help is just being present for someone.
Just being there, listening, offering support.
Yeah. No need to fix anything or offer solutions, just being present.
It's like being an Aaron and Hur for someone in your life.
And also being willing to let someone be that for you, to let people help you when you're struggling.
Right. It's about giving and receiving support. And it's about that balance of faith and action, like Moses and Joshua.
Exactly. You need both. You can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You have to be willing to take action. But at the same time, you can draw strength from your faith.
It's that synergy, that combination of faith and action that really empowers us to overcome obstacles.
And to trust that we have the resources to handle whatever comes our way.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Exodus 17, I want to leave you with this. Where do you need to lean into that trust more in your own life?
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Beautifully said. And for me, it's about trusting that I have the right people around me to support me along the way. Who are your Aaron and Hurs?
It's a great question for all of us to ponder.
And it's not always easy to ask for help, is it?
No, not always. But it's so important.
So what about you? What does trusting in that provision, that help, look like for you?
I think for me, it's about remembering that even when things feel, I don't know, out of control or just chaotic, that there's a deeper order to things.
Yeah. Even when it feels random, there's a plan.
Right. And trusting that I have what I need inside and out to get through it, whatever it is.
And sometimes that means asking for help.
Right. Totally. Letting go of the need to control everything and just allowing myself to receive support.
That can be tough. But when you do it, it's freeing.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, so trusting in provision, finding strength in community, and then taking action. But staying connected to something bigger than ourselves. Any last thoughts for our listeners
Sure.
as they navigate their own wilderness experiences?
Thinking about this story, the Israelites and the Amalekites, it brings up some really tough questions ethically, and we've touched on those a bit. And there aren't easy answers, right? But I think wrestling with those questions, being willing to really sit with the discomfort of it all, that's part of what makes these stories so powerful.
Yeah, it's like they're inviting us to think critically, to challenge what we think we know, and really wrestle with the complexities of life and faith and human nature.
Yeah, for sure.
And we don't always need to have the answers. Sometimes it's enough to just be curious and keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions.
Exactly. And remember, I think these stories, even the ones that make us uncomfortable, they're meant to help us, guide us as we navigate our own lives.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, even in the wilderness, even when things are tough, there's always hope. There's always a way forward. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.